simultaneous panel track session will discuss on innovations and inclusive remittance business models and products that meet the client's needs. To begin the session, let me introduce the moderator for this session, Ms. Juanita Woodward, Principal Consultant, CTD Connecting the Dots, InfoCorp Technologies, Singapore University of Social Sciences. And joining us will be three distinguished panelists. The first one, Ms. Sofia Freyder, Payment Expert, Mr. Eugene Nigro, Vice President of Global Business Development, Mr. Michele Grosso, CEO and Founder, Democrance Insurance. Now I'm pleased to invite all the speakers and moderator to be on stage, and I'll pass the session to the moderator. Please welcome.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to the session. Thank you for choosing this session. Could I hear, I know it's really late in the day, could I hear a good afternoon back from you all, just to make sure that you're not frozen up there in the, in the seats. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Now, I think this really is a very important topic to look at innovation and inclusive remittance models and services that really meet the needs of remittance clients. Okay, and we have a very strong panel to talk about this today. To my left is Eugene Nigro. He's the Vice President of Global Business for Remitly, and he has many years of experience working across the globe. He also has in his background experience with remittance companies you may be familiar with, Zoom, Western Union, and he also worked for the US State Department. And then we have Sofia Freyder. She's a highly experienced product management and marketing professional with a strong and varied background in the payments industry. And I think, my gosh, you've worked for some very strong companies, starting with Western Union, then MasterCard, Earthport, and now she's with JP Morgan Chase. And then we have Michele, like your mother calls you, right? Okay, Michele. Grosso, and he's the CEO and founder of Democrance Insurance with its headquarters in the UAE. Yes? Okay. So, what we're going to look at today in this session is really what is driving innovation in the private sector, okay, and how can the remittance industry enable clients, okay, with products and services that meet their needs, and for the remittance companies, how can they offer products that are innovative, scalable, sustainable, and profitable. Okay, so with that, to kick things off, I think I'm going to ask Sofia first. Which areas do you see innovation in the remittance industry that is most impactful for senders and receivers and scalable for remittance companies?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say that the remittance market as a whole changed significantly lately. Before it was just a business of money transfer organizations. Now there are so many other companies that entered that franchise, including the cards networks, obviously fintechs, but also retailers online or offline, also processors of the payments or actual banks, which have been there for a while, but now it's kind of taking a different role. So it's definitely changing. In addition to this, money transfers by itself, in many cases, becoming kind of an old product, so to say, and companies are looking at innovation in terms of offering additional financial services attached to money transfers. Such services as, for example, budget management tools, or the deposit accounts or savings accounts, also cards, prepaid cards, micro-lending, insurance, and etc., which I think in general definitely benefits the financial inclusions and making those people who don't have traditional bank accounts are more relevant to the financial world. In terms of true, so to say, new trends or innovation in the market, today was a lot said about blockchain and distributed ledger technology. Definitely it is happening, and I think the good thing about this trend is I believe this technology will help us to save cost on operations in the remittance space, specifically when it comes to relationship to settlement, FX management, float, and etc. Cryptocurrency I would probably look at as a separate topic, but it's also taking place in the parallel. Artificial intelligence is a very big trend currently, and I also believe it's an incredibly important tool in cost savings, not only for the payments processing, but also for compliance optimization, because compliance is probably the biggest cost of remittances today. And with artificial intelligence, which not only collects data, but analyzes and makes decisions, those compliance could be much better optimized, performed in real time, which is very important now. And as it evolves and becomes more sophisticated, I think it definitely will save cost of operations for remittance companies. Now, another clear trend is the physical biometrics or behavioral biometrics, which help to identify and do proper KYC on remittance customers. It also provides for better security and reliability of remittance flows. So that type of industry trend, I think, will definitely will grow fast and will bring incremental benefit to the remittance companies, which will again reflect in the cost savings, and to the actual customers, because it will be more reliable, safe, and secure from their standpoint. Real-time payments, I want to mention real-time payments. As you know, there are a lot of initiatives right now happening. Over 20 markets globally currently have real-time payments domestically, right? So a lot of countries are now adding those capabilities in certain parts of the world. Specifically, US is now rolling out real-time payments. While it is first rolled out domestically, but the next step is always to connect it to the international systems. And obviously with international system connection, it allows for real-time delivery of those payments to the end customer, which is an incredible benefit for the actual consumers, but it is also a benefit for the money transfer organization or business participants who have much less risk associated with real-time payments. Multi-channel offering, of course, I think we all know now payout of remittances happening not only in cash, but also there is a definite growth of mobile wallets, e-wallets, payout to the cards, bank accounts, ATM, and even to crypto in some cases, in some use cases, which is obviously limited, but it's still happening. So I would say those are the key trends, and many of them would benefit the market participants.
Yes. Thank you for that wonderful summary. When people ask me why I get so excited about being in the payments and remittances industry, especially right now, we really are in changing times. We have so many tools now that we didn't have a few years ago to really provide better services. So Gene, I'm going to ask you, first of all, tell us just a little bit about Remitly and how you all view innovation.
Okay, Remitly is a worldwide based online money transfer company. What we do is similar to other good companies that are here that I'm not going to mention them. But the difference between us and other companies is that we have, from an outbound perspective, we not only service the US, but we service the top worldwide countries, outbound countries worldwide. Meaning that we service Australia, we service the US, we service Canada and the European Union. What drives innovation? Before I start talking, I have to tell you a little disclaimer. I'm going to give you, so I can be honestly blunt, I'm going to give you my personal opinions. I'm not speaking on behalf of Remitly, I work for Remitly. I think that what drives innovations is very simple, and no one wants to address that, is profits. It's plain profits. I'm going to give you an example, or to tell you a little story. I used to work for Western Union for 10 years. Western Union is a very good company. I met the former CEO of Zoom at a conference in Washington, D.C. at the World Bank. When I met him 20 years ago, he was talking about doing online money transfer companies. I went back to we had a nice conversation, but we don't have time to give you into all the details. I went back to the office, I wrote a memo to my boss at Western Union, and the response was, Gene, you are out of your mind. No one is going to be sending money online. So why is Western Union now doing online business? because they have been forced, because they want to have profits, they have to compete. If you look at the earnings release, I don't know if anyone here listened to the earnings release of Hickman, the CEO of Western Union, or the CEO of MoneyGram, and you look at the numbers, at the pure numbers, the data. We have been talking a lot about data. The revenues of WesternUnion.com, they are much, much larger, about 700 million US, 650, 700 million USD. And the revenues of all the other online companies together is not even $500 million. So what drives innovation from my perspective is that companies need to have profits. We can talk about making things better for the consumer, and that's true. But the bottom line is that from a business perspective, we have to look at the P&L. We have to offer products that the consumer wants, and also we have to offer products where we make money.
Okay, thank you. Now, one of the areas that I'm very excited about in terms of financial inclusion and looking at remittances is the area of micro-insurance. So I was very excited to hear Michele was going to be on the panel. And so could you tell us a little bit about the journey that Democrance has had in terms of providing life insurance to low-income migrant workers in the UAE?
Yes, absolutely. I'm really happy to be here. Really excited to have heard throughout the day that microinsurance has been a hot topic with Maxiata, Sofia. So I will try to warm you up with this topic. If I don't manage to, I hope you do so with my Italian accent a little bit. So we believe that innovation can be effective only when it actually goes and benefits the end consumer. And I think that we can all agree that the migrant workers is unprotected from the risks that she faces in the host country. And because her family back home is dependent on that remittance flow, she's also exposed to that. And that makes that migrant workers the perfect ideal customer for insurance. Now, surprise, surprise, she doesn't have access to it. Actually, 97% of the people in these lower income communities, they do not have access to insurance. If we look at the markets where we are from, the Middle East and North Africa, lower income communities, less than 1% of it have actually access to microinsurance. And that's what we focus on at Democrance. We make insurance affordable and accessible to the lower income population via their mobile phones. And we work with large companies that have these mass consumers among their customer base. So, for example, mobile operators and remittance houses. We started working actually with remittance houses, thanks to actually IFAD, with their financing facility for remittances, and in partnership with ADA Microfinance, an NGO based in Luxembourg that specialized on inclusive finance. And the project aims actually to provide insurance to the lower income Indian and also Filipino migrant workers in the UAE, and also to their families back home via the remittance house channel, and through a fully digital customer journey that is enabled by Democrance technology. The project is actually innovative with many aspects. The end-to-end processes, they are fully digital and automated via our machine learning enabled insurance technology platform. And the migrant workers, most importantly, only needs her phone to purchase and service and claim for her insurance policy. Another example, we educate the migrant workers on why insurance is important for them with a financial education campaign directly delivered on their phone. And each month we inform the beneficiaries of those policies of how they can claim with a few taps on their phone, with mobile communications delivered in local languages. And so we are now we're launching this pilot in the UAE on these UAE to India and UAE to Philippines corridors, and then we plan, of course, to leverage the learnings to expand it to other corridors very soon.
Thank you. Now, when you started looking at this initiative, you did quite, you reached out to the community, you had focus groups, you had questionnaires to really gather data to understand what the needs were of the clients. And so that actually leads into the next question, which is, how many of you have heard of the concept of human-centered design? Human-centered design? Okay, very small number of you, okay? Now, this is considered a real innovation tool today, especially with the development world, and it's a way to ensure that you understand the client, the environment they're working in, and what they need, so that when you launch the product, you have launched the right product. Now, we had a bit of a discussion about this term called human-centered design, and is it just really a relabeled, a new name for what hopefully good product developers have been doing for a long time. So I wanted to throw that question out to Sofia and to Eugene about human-centered design, and is it something new, or is it something that good companies have been doing all along?
Thank you. First of all, sorry, I forgot to do it earlier, but I do need to say a disclaimer. Eugene reminded it to me that everything that I'm sharing today, the information, the opinion, it's my personal opinion, does not represent the official opinion or view of JP Morgan Chase. Thank you. Now about human-centered design. We've had a discussion just before that, and I actually expressed my opinion that I don't believe that it's anything new. I think it's just a new name for something that existed for many, many years. At least when I joined workforce about 20 years ago, that already existed, and I did that when I joined. And what is really human-centered design is when you're creating a product by collecting feedback from your target audience, by creating the product that will fit your target audience, meet their needs, will be usable and easily understood by your audience. And also in the process of development, you have testing, focus groups, different type of research with your customers to make sure that what you're creating is actually on track with that. So if I looked at some of the books 20, 30 years old, it usually was called customer-centric design, or proper market research and customer analysis, and in the process of development, customer obsession is some of the books, and etc. And frankly speaking, I think that any good product should be developed exactly this way. I do recognize that potentially some industries implemented it earlier, or been doing it forever, almost since the product exists, and maybe some other industries kind of were a little bit distant potentially from the customer. Maybe technology was a little bit more distant than consumer packaged goods, for example. But I do believe it's absolutely the right approach, no doubt. And if company focused on this more than before, it's great, absolutely great and welcome. Yeah.
I think to some degree we concluded whatever we call it, whether it's customer-centric design or human-centered design, it's very important to understand the customer as you are making the design, especially as we have the new technology, whether it be feature phone, now we're moving into smartphone, there's a learning curve. Did you want to make any comments about what you did at the very beginning?
Look, just maybe more in general on how these, large corporates, especially insurers, and actually I can take the blame here, although Democrats we're not actually insurer, but we are in the space. I think that insurers had this tendency to build product, just based on actually Excel on models in their offices, and not doing a lot of research before that, and that's one of the reasons why 97% of the people do not have access to insurance. So yes, this is absolutely needed. Yes, it is not a new concept, but several industries, including insurance, have lacked them.
I want to add to what Michele just said, is that the challenge is, even though companies want to do it, but they do want to spend less money and get to the market sooner. And that's where the problem happens. Because they're saying that, yes, we all want to do human-centered design, customer focus, but we want to spend as much little for research, that little for testing, and we want to be to the market as fast as we can. So that's the challenge. And because of that, I also see a lot of companies, what they do, instead of doing all this proper research and testing up front, they actually launching with a minimum viable product, so to say, and then they learn what's happening with the market, how market takes it, and then those learnings in the new iteration, they apply it to the optimization of the product. Sometimes it works fine, but sometimes they spend already so much money in the beginning that it's kind of a loss, when they start to redoing it.
I think you may have had some comments on this topic.
Well, yes, I have, once again, a different point of view. I think that human-centric design is not a new concept, but the problem that I have with the concept is that it's mostly done by, and there's no criticism of anyone, it's done by intellectuals, it's done by university professors. They're in an ivory tower. You can name any university. They don't go out into the street, they don't speak the language of the countries. They're recommending products for what? Ethiopia, Bangladesh, Argentina, Brazil, Vietnam. And they have not even been there. They not even speak the language of the country. So then they create products, and more important, they don't look at the P&L. Once again, we are here in the business of making money. We have to create products that our customers want, and that also the product is profitable. What does our customer want? They want the money fast. They want speed. They want instant service. If you look at all the other companies across the spectrum from A to Z, what do they advertise? Instant service, immediate service, in seconds. If you take away all the legal disclaimers. And the other problem is that it's very difficult to develop one product that it can be used across different cultures, across different political systems. They have different type of controls. So the concept is very good to me. Probably I'm wrong, but you need to go out and test it, and you need to make sure that it works all over the world. You cannot have multiple products. There are like 72 countries, I think, in Africa. There's no way how you can have 72 different products. Then you have, many languages. The key for me is that, once again, that to develop a product, you need to go out on the street, you have to walk the neighborhoods, and the product has to be profitable. Because if not, I was at Western Union, we launched a lot of new products that we thought that was going to change the world. We tested. Where would we test the product? In the US. Did we travel overseas to test the product? No. Maybe that has changed. This is, 10 years ago. So in a nutshell, the product has to be profitable. It can sound nice in the ivory tower of a university, but in the real world it might not work.
Okay, so I think we concluded how important it is to test first in the market and to make sure that the product over time will be a sustainable, profitable product. Now, I want to move on to another topic that's been talked about a few times today, which is mobile wallets. And looking at this from a financial inclusion side, the World Bank, as you may all be aware, released their Findex report a couple of weeks ago. 69% of adults now globally have an account. And where we see mobile wallets most significantly as a region is in Africa, about 10%. In fact, some of the countries exceed 10%. The people have mobile wallets. Now, looking at specific countries, we have other countries like Bangladesh, Iran, Mongolia, and Paraguay, who actually have more than 20% of the population with mobile wallets. So the question is, how do you view going forward the growth in mobile wallets, which is expected in this region, to benefit senders and receivers of remittances?
Well, I have mixed feelings about mobile wallets. Just to give you another story, I was in the Ivory Coast about 17 months ago, and we were traveling between two cities. The car broke down in the middle of nowhere. We had to walk about, I don't know, 2 or 3 kilometers to get to a village in order to fix the car. When we got to the village, mobile wallet was all over the place. All over the place, you can see mobile wallets. When I asked them if they receive remittances, some people say yes, some people say no. But I was talking, Sofia and I had lunch, about an hour ago, with a professor that she was asking some questions from Australia. And after talking to her, it really opened my mind. What mobile wallets are doing is that they're making cash available easier. People in most countries, the funds come into a mobile wallet, and what happened? They cash out immediately. So my perspective is that mobile wallets are probably going to help to keep the status quo. They're going to make cash available anywhere. Because if you go in most countries, developing countries, I'm not talking about the European countries, Australia, New Zealand, and the US and Canada, and so forth. People want cash. Like someone else gave the example of their son, the panel that was here before. My son might get upset with him because he never goes out with cash. But he lives in the US. If you go to other countries, developing countries, you need cash. And I think that for years to come, cash will continue to be the king.
I want to add, first of all, I agree with Eugene, and I want to add that we live in a wonderful time when there are so many different technologies coexist. There is cash, there is still checks in some markets, right? And other markets never seen checks.